I'm Coach Willie, and I just had this episode with Kim, and it was phenomenal. Not just for people who are learning about the strategies and the systems, but for people who are living their lives with their heart. Because we're living in light through love, inspiration, and gratitude for hope, as well as time to be able to do stuff. I love what we recorded in this episode and can't wait for you to watch it.
Welcome to the show. I'm so happy you're here. You are going to be so happy you're here. I am Kim Sorrelle, and I get to speak, I get to write, I get to do a lot of fun things in life, but my favorite thing to do is to meet people, and I get to meet the coolest people ever. And Willie, who's on my show today, is one of those super cool people. He does amazing things. I love the way he takes what he's been given in life and made it a superpower. You're going to find out about that. And because sometimes we're given stuff that is unexpected and we think, wow, we either take it and thrive with it or we take it and go hide in a corner, I guess. Willie has chosen to thrive, and not only thrive for himself, but for lots and lots and lots of other people, for you. And so here we are today. Willie, welcome to the show.
Oh, Kim, thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm excited. I love what I've seen with this podcast and just very excited to talk about what we're going to today.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm so thrilled that you're here. So I would like the audience to really get to know you. So first, talk about 8-year-old Willie.
Yeah, 8-year-old Willie. Um, for like, if you can imagine, just like really adventurous kid out there having fun, having a lot of friends, and just like really enjoying life. And then about that age was when I was diagnosed with dyslexia. And for those who don't know what it is, in the simplest of terms, it's difficulty with reading. It's just the way that I process information, whether it's coming in, internalizing it, or communicating it outwards. And there's like, it affects reading and speaking and that as well. But for me specifically, it was reading and speaking. And so when I found out about that, my parents, they caught it early and they were able to help me. But I started to see that some of my friends were not as nice as them. And they're just kids. They're just like, oh, Willie goes off to this special class the last hour of each Friday. That's kind of weird. Us normal people, us normal kids, we're gonna go play football and Willie, we'll catch you another time. And so I'd just be standing there looking at my friends walking away, thinking, what did I do wrong? Am I broken? If I did something wrong, what can I do to change so that people will like me more? And those were just like some of the beginning thoughts of then just imagine feeling that as a kid. The beginning thoughts of then transforming as it went into like elementary, middle, and high school of this kid who felt like he was always behind, always had to catch up and had to put in double the work, but always felt that everyone else was ahead. And that wording imposter syndrome really fit into there. So that curious, adventurous kid, slowly but surely, as those thoughts continued on of being broken and being an imposter, then turned him into that shy kid. And that's kind of what it was like around 8 years old.
Wow, wow. I can't imagine that it had to be so hard. And kids can be cruel. And it would have been great maybe if a teacher, somebody, some adult would have explained to them, Willie gets to go to this really cool thing. If you're wondering where he's going, it's not a big deal because I remember as a kid, I had to go to speech class, not because I had a lisp or anything, but because I had a gravelly voice and they thought something was wrong, I guess. I don't know. And,
Yeah.
but I was young enough that I didn't feel like it affected like first grade, whatever. But as you get older, you're noticing kids are getting pulled out of class. And then you always wonder, you hear the name over the loudspeaker or somebody just always goes same time every week or whatever it is. And unless somebody tells you where they're going, it's like, where are you going? And I would think with you too, it's not like you were shouting it from the rooftops, like, hey, I get to go to this thing because I'm dyslexic, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's not like you're telling the kids, hey, this is this cool thing I get to go to. And so if the kids aren't understanding dyslexia and it's never mentioned where you're going, it's going to be this mystery in their head that's going to be like, why is Willie get out of class? And is it because he's bad? Something's wrong with him. And then you question yourself because the kids are acting that way toward you. Man, Willie, I can't imagine. Like on in one hand, what a blessing that at that age you were diagnosed. I've talked to people that don't get diagnosed until they're in their 40s even. Like some people
Yeah.
just don't, they struggle, right? So to get help at that age is that's so cool. But then to make you feel like an outcast or like you don't measure up to the other kids or there's something wrong, how sad. That's so sad. I'm so sorry you went through that. That had to be so hard. Did
Oh
that follow
yeah.
you through like all the way through then, junior high, high school?
Yeah, pretty much. Because, like you're saying, the last hour a parent would come in or a teacher. I guess I was in first grade. I didn't know, or first or second grade. I didn't know what it was. They'd come in and be like, "Hey, is Willie Blake here?" I'd be like, "Yeah, right here." Says, "Hey, come with me." And I look over to my teacher, and the teacher would be like, "Yeah, you can go." And the other kids, it's just a mystery to them. And when you have that kid curiosity of what the heck's going on mixed with the imagination that kids have, well, then the possibilities are in so many different directions of, well, maybe he's that cool bad kid, or maybe he's that special kid, or maybe he's going and doing whatever that they come up with in their minds. And it's just what kids do. And
Mm,
us as adults, like I think about my oldest. She's in kindergarten right now, and I want to surround her with as many people as I can who are just those parents and those adults who notice things, that they just see that this is how they are at the beginning of school year, but then as the school year goes along, maybe it's just like all of a sudden she starts changing her behavior, that they'll contact us, that they'll address it and talk to her, something so that they can change it. But sadly for a lot of kids, they just don't get that. And it's not, I wouldn't say it's the adult's fault, because especially teachers, they got what, 30 kids per classroom and they're trying to teach. And I wouldn't blame it on the parents either, because most parents are doing their best. And the
mm.
other kids, like kids are just, they're just honest little awesome little kids. And so it's just like, who to blame? There's not really much blame. It's just what happens. And so yeah,
Yeah.
throughout up into that middle and high school, about the same thing. Like it just became more sophisticated. I was bullied a little bit in middle school, and in high school, I had friends, but I intensely remember this moment where we have lunch, having a good time. We'd walk down the hallway to our next period, and my friends would walk into the honors English class, and I felt I was smart. I had all A's and high B's, and so I'm like, I'm a smart kid. But they went to honors class, and I had to go a few more doors down
Mm,
to the regular English class, to where really none of the students want to work. None of them wanted to be there. They didn't care about their grades, and I felt so out of place. So yeah,
mm.
they carried up throughout, uh, all the way up to those teen years.
Yeah, man, that's tough. Yeah, that would be really tough because you are a smart guy. And that's the problem with so many things is like it doesn't have anything to do with intelligence. But if you get a label or if you get a label, I guess is probably the best terminology for it. When you're labeled a
Yeah,
certain way, it's hard to get rid of that. It's hard to wipe that off and change it, reverse it somehow. But I think a lot of it, do you think a lot of it comes down to communication? I feel like there's the more we can communicate things to kids, to adults, to whoever, the better. The like all those kids, like it wouldn't it have been great if all the kids understood dyslexia, that it's a thing, and it's not a bad thing, and understood it
yeah,
the right way, right? That it's not a defect, it's just different, and understood it more. I I don't know. I've it's tough. kids are tough, and
Yeah,
yeah, and the system can be tough because
yeah,
we
and
spend on ours
it's
English. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And it just happens that way. So yeah, of course, communication's always important. That's why I love like diving into harder conversations that aren't talked about because with my parents and my grandparents, like you might have had the talk like one time or went to the maturation program in the fifth grade or something like a little education thing they do. But other than that, it's like it's taboo. We do not talk about it.
Right.
And
Right.
you just really hear it from your friends and such. But in a world that we live in today, to where you hear and learn about it at a lot earlier age, just because it is everywhere. Like
Mhm.
it is in movies and shows and even in like kids shows. And so having that open communication, like what me and my wife are doing with our kids, if they ask a question of just like, where do babies come from? Or like, how does that happen? Then we find the ways to be able to tell them. We'd be very direct with it and use like the right scientific words, but then we don't like go all into like, well, this is the whole history behind it and the science. It's just like we answer their questions so that they have trust in us, that we can answer them, and that they come to us when they have those questions, and that we'll give them the answers um, that we can answer to the best of our abilities. But then also that it's not that we hide human life,
Mhm.
that we hide the things that are just a part of us, like dyslexia, and not just dyslexia, but like ADHD, autism, OCD, like all these neurodivergent different topics and things that people have. We can just talk about them. There's no shame in talking with them, and that's what I've enjoyed. It, we talked about it as a kid and a teenager, how bad it was for me and whatnot. There's a good ending to all this story, and I'm sure we'll get to it. But it's just like as we share and as we talk about it, it lessens the I don't know if the word's impact, but it lessens the burden in which we feel on ourselves to carry it alone. And instead, we're actually able to help other people feel that relief. One of my clients that I work with, I remember meeting him about a year and a half ago at a networking event. And he was just like, he just as a regular networker, he was like, hey, my name's Willie Blake. What's yours? Hey, my name's this. What do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm a dyslexic coach. And he's like, that's so cool. And he like leans in and whispers to me, he's like, I'm dyslexic too. And we had a good conversation about that. And he told me a year later when we reconnected, and he's like, I want to work with you, was in his phone. He put me as Willie Blake, dyslexic something. And that was the title. That was what he gave me in his phone because he was just so surprised and so shocked about how open I was about it. But it gave him the space to then be able to talk about his dyslexia openly. And I
Mhm.
think that is just so needed in it doesn't matter what age group you are, from if you're retired, from when you're in your adult life to teenagers to kids, that having these open conversations that are direct, that you don't share the full story about, but that you are able to talk about what's going on. Then we don't have to deal with all this like darkness, all these
Mhm.
challenges and hopelessness. Of course, it's still going to be there because you you need you need pain to be able to feel joy. There's a reason why it's there, but you don't have to do it alone. I think that's the whole thing with it.
Yeah, my gosh, I love that. Thanks for sharing that story because it's so true. And I think too, the more you communicate things, the more normal they become.
Yes.
And instead of things being taboo or hush hush, like having the talk like you were talking about, or dyslexia or ADHD, OCD, whatever it happens to be, to realize that this is life. This is just life. It's not good. It's not bad. It's life. And some of it's good, really good. So whatever. But to not talk about it makes it seem like it's some big secret thing that is taboo, and man, don't ever bring it up. But if you can talk about it openly, it changes conversation entirely. It changes perception entirely. So it makes so much sense. Did you know what you wanted to do? Like when you were in high school, grade school, did you dream I'm going to grow up and I'm going to be a something?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to be a veterinarian. I wanted to work with animals.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to do till about junior year in high school. But there was a day in which I went to, they had this like kind of off-campus college thing to where high schools in their senior year could go there and get college credit for certain different things they went into. They had a veterinary type program, I guess you can say, with it. So I went there to look at it to see if there would be something I wanted to do. I remember walking into this room. It was one of like the back rooms. It was kind of like a big closet, but it had snakes and rats and a bunch of reptiles. And I walked in there, I looked around, and I turned, walked out, and I lost all desire of being a vet on that day.
Oh, that's funny.
Because of course, you can work with like sea animals, which I think is really cool. And there's plenty of other animals that you can work with in their different specific niches. But it was from that day, I'm just like, man, I just yeah, just not desire anymore. So then it went to being a chef. I love cooking. But then as I went into learning about cooking, they don't make that much, especially in the first several years that they're doing it. So I'm like, okay, maybe I can like put that on the back burner and do something like computer technology and computer programming. And so I went into that. And as I was getting to the end of high school, applying for colleges, focusing on degrees, my mom comes to me and says, "You're really good at strategy stuff. And you always beat me in Monopoly. So why don't you go into like some business or accounting thing?" I said, "Sure, we can do that." And so I went into accounting. And that's what I did the first year and a half as I was doing my generals and doing that degree. And it was that year and a half into it that then I'm just like, I can do the accounting stuff, but I do not want to sit at a computer and a desk all day, every day. I like to talk to people, even though at the time I was still a little bit shy. I wasn't the Willie that I am today. I was still a little bit reserved, but I want to get out and talk with people and share what I have. And so then I switched to business management and was able to graduate with a bachelor's in that. But then through everything that went on after that, then led to me being into coaching. But funny enough, yeah, it all started with me wanting to work with animals.
That's so funny. And then as soon as you found out it wasn't all kittens and puppies, you were out of there.
Yeah, all the cats, horses, and dogs, and all those animals. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And I wanted to work at like SeaWorld. I thought that'd be really cool to dolphins and whales and all that. I'm like, that would be really cool. But once I walked into that room, I'm like, nah, I'm good. I, I still love animals and animals love me, but nah, I'll do something else.
So you can own an animal, you don't have to fix the animal.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that works.
Yeah.
That works. Yeah. So, but you're an entrepreneur, which is
Yeah.
which is its own animal. Speaking of animals,
For sure. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so that can be a hard transition because you go to college and you get a degree and you think, okay, well now I got to do internships and then I got to apply at places and then I got to go work for somebody. It can be awfully hard to transition from that, getting a paycheck that somebody else is writing and you're working this many hours to say, you know what, I'm going to go out on a limb and totally work for myself and hopefully this thing works out. Like, what was that transition like for you?
Yes. That transition was like I didn't jump straight into like jumping out of my job and into going full time. I was working produce at Walmart, and I this was after several years of learning what this coaching thing was. And it wasn't even coaching at the time. It was like, what is personal growth? What is this mindset and this thing? Entrepreneurship. What the heck does that even mean? So it's me like actually starting to read books and learning about these figures who are out there being successful. I learned about Steve Jobs and Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar and Bob Proctor as speakers and just like this whole realm of awesome people. And it was like that's how it started. And then I started to be like, well, I wanted to be a teacher, but I'd never wanted to be in the traditional teaching sense, like traditional education. Coaching seems pretty cool. So I started out as I was literally throwing apples at Walmart to fill up the thing. On the side, I was creating this coaching business because I loved giving advice and talking to people. So it was 9 to 5, but it was more like 4 a.m. was where I had to be there. It was like 4 to 1. But then after that, it was then doing an hour or two of trying to build this business. And the first year, got 0 clients, but was still learning. Second year, I got 1 client, and it was my cousin. And then the next year was when I like continued to put it in, and then got a few more on, and then that's where um, they were changing things at the place I was at, and they were the schedule I had was a Monday to Friday, but as they were changing the schedules, each employee needed to work a weekend. So either Saturday or Sunday, and Saturday was booked, so I had to work Sunday. Now, Sundays are very special to me. I'm Christian and I go to church on Sundays, and Sundays are like my day to relax, to worship God, and then to just be with my family. And so working Sundays didn't fit that. And it was a hard conversation I had with my wife. And I'll be honest, it took weeks. I wish it was shorter. I wish I felt more devoted, but it took weeks for me to make that decision. But ultimately, I told my wife and I talked, and we said, I think it's time to end the that part of my chapter with produce at Walmart. So went to my boss and they said, "Hey, what are your thoughts with it?" And I said, "I'm going to turn in my 2 weeks." So I turned in my 2 weeks and left. And then after my wife and I were talking, I'm like, "Well, I can go get another 9 to 5." But I was thinking, and like kind of that like husband thing of like, I was thinking that I could do coaching full time. And she said, okay, let's set some boundaries. So we set some boundaries of this time frame as well as an income goal that I had to reach. And after that, we'd readdress it and go into it. And so that's when I fully went into coaching and started to really just help people. And I learned how to niche down. I learned that instead of just being a coach, empowerment coach for everybody, like I really wanted to just start with myself when I was first starting, which was that dyslexic individual who didn't have confidence, who was always second guessing himself, who felt like an imposter and in a ways a fraud whenever he went out into different networking events and businesses because he was just starting. He didn't have the credibility or the rapport that everyone else did. And so I wanted to teach that. So then it was like dyslexics who are going through that, but not just those. I want to focus on people who are truly wanting it, who are out there and just like, I want to know what the next step is. So whether that's the promotion that they're looking for or the starting a side hustle or actually jumping in like I did and starting a business, I want to help those people who are actually out there doing it. So now I talk to dyslexic professionals and entrepreneurs. And of course, I help people who aren't dyslexic. And of course, I help people who aren't professionals. But like that was one of the pieces that helped me down that path. And so that's the whole thing of that from 9 to 5, we're throwing that produce, putting those apples up to then starting what I've been able to just like humbly and graciously created today.
Yeah, well, kudos to your wife. Not every wife would say, okay, give it a try, honey. Let's do this thing. So kudos to her and to you. You know, I'm an entrepreneur. I started my first business when I was 18. And when you're 18, you don't know how much you don't know. So starting
Yes.
at 18, that was a breeze because it's like, I can do this. You know, you think you can do anything and you just dive in and do it. And you're in a whole different financial position. When you have a family, and responsibilities and bills to pay and all of that, way different, going out on a limb and really you're investing in yourself, believing in yourself, which is so cool. So good for you for doing it and doing it so successfully. And I love your niche. I love that that's who you focus on because there's probably not many of you around. And again, you know, we're talking about something that in some people's minds is a limitation. And so some people don't want to ever even admit that they have any sort of limitation. And so, good for you. Like, I'm sure that there are so many people that need you and that you're helping. And so thank you for all the people that you're helping. And I think it's wonderful. And so then you develop this light. I like your system. So I'd love for you
Yeah.
to talk about that.
Yes, light. So I call it my one word why. So if you were to take the reason why you do everything, and people out there, you've heard the phrase like figure out your why you want to do it, and create your elevator pitch statement off of it or things like that. When I first did this, it was back in like 2019. And I came across this awesome dude, Evan Carmichael, who's one of my mentors, and I got to meet him. And he wrote a book called Your One Word. And it went into your one word why, which is taking your why statement and squishing it down into a single word. And that word drives you in the past. It drives you today and 20, 40 years in the future. It's the same reason that gets you up in the morning and just motivates you. So as I went through a few activities with him and as I pondered and talked with God about it, my word was light. And I was able to find it because it was the opposite of darkness. And I don't like darkness. Darkness scares me. And being in the dark and more of it just being the unknown aspect of it. If something is unknown, it is difficult for me to be able to embrace it and do something with it. It's the reason why I don't like doing like phone calls to insurance companies or the hospital to pay a bill or like things because I don't know what the conversation is going to be on the other end. And so because of that, it like elevates this little past. I don't like to use the word trauma lightly, but this little past trauma experience within me of I got to make sure I'm fully prepared, got my notes on the side, got the money amounts, account numbers, and everything so that when I get into there, I don't make mistakes.
Mhm.
You can just kind of see that connect of me throughout grade school as a dyslexic. I don't want to make mistakes because if I make mistakes, people are going to laugh at me. People are going to think different about me. And I don't want that. I got to hold up this. You don't use these words as kids, but this ego, this persona, so that other people think that I am who I think that they think that I should be.
Mm.
And so this light acronym came and it was just light, the word light at the time, lighting people up, seeing that glimmer in their eyes of igniting that passion, having that fire within them, all these put together, having the love and the heart and just the hope of the future all together into this word of light. It was 5 years later, so just a couple of years ago, where I'm finally just like, I wonder if there's like a cool way I can make this word something that's like more relatable, actually teach people. And that's where the acronym came from, which for my word of light, it's L is for love, I is for inspire, G is for gratitude, H is for hope, and then T is for time, because that's what we get to control.
Mm.
And all of that, I think about everything I teach, all the frameworks and systems I have, all the conversations that I talk about of where it just feels like that was a great conversation. All of that put together just each falls into at least one of those five categories. And so that's the reason why I do everything. It's to be able to see the light in other people.
Wow. Wow. I love that. And what I love about it too is it's obvious it carries over to your family, your kids, everybody that you know, that it's not even just for your clients, but you're the light in the room. You want to be the light to everybody. And I love the words. Like we talked for just a minute before we went on air, and those are words that you don't hear associated with business very often, or any kind of coaching even very often. Love and inspire and hope and um yeah, I mean gratitude. Like you might hear one of them, but all those together, that's power, man. That is some power, because if you can lead with love, if you can do things people first, uh make sure that that people are more important than the bottom line. Make sure that people are more important than success, and truly mean it. And I mean, that's love, right? And inspire. You're such an inspiration. So inspire is no
Thank
big
you.
deal for you. Like it is so natural for you to inspire. So tell me about those words though, because those are so powerful. So I would love your take on love and on inspire and on hope and gratitude and time.
Yeah, I'd love to share it. Can I share a little vulnerable moment with you? Is
Sure.
that all right? There's a reason why these are a part of me. And it goes back to the reason also why I have such a big heart for people. Because I love people. I love this world that we have. And even people who really get me upset and who have hurt me in the past, I could, after like going through some exercises of like forgiveness and such, I could honestly say the people who I had feelings about that against, I could go and be in a room with them and go and say hi to them. But the reason why was back in, I believe I think it was 3 years into college. So I was there for 4 years. That beginning of the last year, end of the second to last year of college, in a week span, my one of my cousins and my childhood best friends both took their life within the same week.
Mm,
And for anyone who has ever been in those moments to where someone has taken their life that they have loved so much, you do not forget where you are at and the
mm,
moment it happened. And I remember standing at UVU campus. I was in the business department, back in the hallway next to these chairs, and I was with one of my friends. His name was Spencer. And I got a text. I pulled my phone out, and it's a text from my mom saying that one of my cousins just took his life yesterday.
mm,
And I'm like, and it hurt because I wasn't too close to my cousins. I come from like a really big family, and so I have like 40 45 different cousins that are just like across the different states and whatnot, but it still hurt. And I made an inner commitment that day of I don't want other people to feel that. But it wasn't that powerful. It's just a thought. I'm like, I don't like when people feel that. And I didn't know how powerful that was going to be for me until later that week. Crazy enough, I was actually in the same department and around the same spot where I got another text and I looked and it was my mom again saying, "Hey, I don't know if you saw on Facebook, but your childhood best friend uh, took his life." And yeah, it sucked. It sucked to be able to get that message. And knowing that we grew up with each other, we had a lot of fun times. Birthday parties were at each one's, and then there was that like high school time where he went to a different high school than I did, and different college, and so we hadn't talked to each other in a couple of years. But it sucks because I wasn't going to be able to talk to him again, and I'd have to wait until after I graduated from life to be able to speak with him again. But something happened in that moment of reviewing of what happened with my cousin, and then taking that message I um, got from my mom about my childhood best friend. I took out of my backpack a little post-it note and I grabbed a pen and I said, I am never going to let other people feel like this again if I can help it. And in that week, it transformed this business student of who was like so focused on grades and strategy and systems and doing all that stuff that you'd hear in business school to then every single thing that I do is going to lead with my heart. Because at the end of the day, the people who are hurting the most are the people who need to have the conversations that no one is willing to talk about. And if people are taking their lives, if people are dealing with cancer, if people are having miscarriages, if people are dealing with addictions, with drugs, alcohol, or sex, or people are just having the hardest times in their lives of depression and anger, I want to be there with them. I want to be that friend that when they're in that darkness, and they're in that room and they are sitting on that floor and their knees are up to their head, their hands are covering their face, and they're just bawling their eyes out thinking that they are all alone by themselves. I want them to hear a door open and for them to look up and see me standing in that door and to have my hand out to them and say, I get what you're going through. Sometimes life really sucks, but I'm here with you. And this light on the other side is a lot better than what you're going through right now. So I'm going to walk with you out this door and we're going to help light each other's lives. And that's where the love comes from. That's where the inspiration and the gratitude comes from. That's where the hope for the future and everything comes with it. And at all, it comes back to time. So you ask, like, what do each of those mean? Love is love for other people, and it's love for myself. I have to love myself because if I can't love myself, how can I love other people? So it works hand in hand. For inspire, I want people to not just be stagnant. I want people to be enlightened. I want them to continuously do things that they like to do. I want them to feel motivated, feel that passion that even though this world, there's so much stuff in this tumultuous world that we are going through, that the chaos that is around us, that you can still see the beauty and that people are inspired to do what they want. Because us as humans are built to serve. So being able to serve other people. Gratitude. Hey, if you want to change your attitude, change your gratitude. Because anxiety and gratitude cannot live in the same place. So if you are anxious, start being grateful. And the simple thing that I like to do is anytime you have those negative thoughts or those thoughts that you don't want, think of three things you're grateful for. That's it. Three things. If you're just like, man, I don't like this person, it's like, all right, what are three things you're grateful for? Well, I'm grateful for my hands because I have fingers with them. I'm grateful for the house I have, and I'm grateful I have water to be able to drink. And then some people, I've done it myself, might be like, well, I'm not grateful for is what happened this day. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's think of three more things we're grateful for. It's like, okay, I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for the shoes I have, and I'm grateful that I get to go to school. And it's just like you start to overload gratitude, and our minds don't like to do things that are uncomfortable, and so it'll push against it because of the habits we built in the past. But as we continue to live a grateful life, then gratitude will become comfortable, and it'll be hard to be anxious. And so that's what gratitude is. It's overloading it. And for you to have just such a great attitude that amongst the chaos, this is a beautiful world that we live in. And so many people have perspectives and stories that are so cool. All we got to do is ask. And then hope, the H in light. It's the hope for the future, hope that things are going to work out. If we're in a hard place, it's realizing that progress is through the pain. When we go through the pain, through the hard, we can hope that at the other end, something's going to be better. And it's the reason why we set goals. It's the reason why we want things in life, because why would we change if on the other end, it's not going to be better? Right? Like why would entrepreneurs start a business if on the other end it's going to make them worse off? Sure, there's risk. I get that. But like if at the other end it's just more worse, you just want to stay the way that you are. So it's that hope that things are going to work out, whether in your business, your relationships, or in your personal life, and especially with yourself, hoping that things will work out. And then T for time, that's kind of like the oddball in all these five, because the others are just like love, inspire, gratitude, and hope. And then it's just like time. And the time's the more practical application part. It's we only have a finite amount of time and we don't know how much time we have. And so we just use the time that we have to be able to do what it is that we want. And just like that week in which I heard about my cousin and friend, of me being like, I want to lead with my heart, I choose to live in each moment. Like right here, I'm with you. Later tonight, when I'm with my kids and family, I'm going to be with them. And other times when I have lunch with either a client or a good friend, I'm going to be there with them, because being present in the moment, that's where you get the peace and joy. That's where it is. The past you learn from. But if you live in the past too long, you get stressed. The future is great. That's where hope goes into. But if you just focus on the future, well, then you're making a wish rather than creating a reality. And so what you can do is be in the present. And that's why it's called the present, because it's a gift.
Wow, that's so good. That's so everything that you said. So sorry about your cousin and your friend. That's tough. I mean, anybody who's listening that has had a family member or a friend die that way, I can tell you from personal experience that is the toughest way to lose somebody because there's questions that you ask and questions you ask of yourself, like what could I have done? What should I have done? What should I have said?
Yeah.
So it's not just questioning, gosh, why were they in such a dark place or why was life so hard for them? But you're also questioning yourself and so many questions that leaves you with. And so it's tough. That's really tough. I lost my mom that way. And so I know how hard that is. And but I have to say I love it that you took inspiration from it and that you wanted to never know anybody in your life again that was feeling that way, that everyone you know would know all they have to do is call you and you'll be there for them, because I don't doubt that that's true, that you would be there whatever you have to do, you'd be there for them. And so then it has inspired you to live a much more inspired life. And you're absolutely right. It's the dark times, the tough times that we do the most learning, we do the most growing, the most stretching. If life was just always easy, I don't know, probably have the maturity of a 20-year-old, or I don't know what that would look like. But you grow when you're stretched. And you don't want to go through tough times, but again, that's life, right? And I did this thing, Willie, where I dedicated a year to figuring out the true meaning of love. And I used 1 Corinthians 13, and love is patient, love is kind, does not envy, does not boast. And I took one word or phrase a month to figure out, well, what is love that is patient? What is love that is kind? And you talking about being present, that is the present, that the past is in the past. It will just give you anxiety if you dwell on it. And the future, there's way too many unknowns in the future. For one thing, you might make plans, you could make goals, but man, those goals can change in a heartbeat. Like, things can change because life happens. And so dwelling too much on the future can cause anxiety, can give you a hard time as well. But love that is patient is being in the moment with the person that you're with. And that's love. When you're with somebody and truly present with them, 100% with them, not thinking about the soccer game later, not thinking about the meeting you had yesterday, none of it, but to be 100% engaged with whoever it is that you're with, that is love. You're giving them your time. The most valuable asset, right, is your time, because it's limited, like you said. And so this moment's going to come and go with or without you. So if you can be
Mm,
totally in the moment,
yes.
just be there. And people know when you're really listening. People know when you're truly engaged. People know when you're not thinking, well, after he says this, I'm going to say that, or you got your
Yeah.
rebuttal ready as soon as they get done talking, but you're really just listening to their words. And it's not a script. Life isn't a script. So really listen to what people have to say, and then value what people have to say, because they get their own opinion. That's the funny thing about people. Everyone gets their own. And so if it's theirs, it's theirs. Don't knock it. It's not, it doesn't have to be yours, but they get to have theirs. And so to be open and listen and just be totally present, that's love. That is love. So thank you for that, because it's so true. And gratitude, I mean, I can't even say enough about that. Uh, I think I, I'm grateful for carpet. I live in
Yeah.
Michigan, right? So in the winter, it is cold, and the floor would be ice cold if I didn't have carpet. I'm grateful for the people who figured out how to make carpet. Like, there's so much in life to be grateful for. If you ever think, well, what am I grateful for? What am I grateful for? Walk around and go, I'm grateful for trees because we get oxygen and apples, or I'm grateful for grass because it does what feeds animals, or, whatever it is. Just look around you and be grateful for everything that's around you. if you're thinking, well, what should I be grateful for? Everything, pretty much everything you should be grateful for. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I love that your whole light thing. When I first read that, I thought, man, I got to know this guy because that is not the usual, business acronym. That is not usually what people live by as an entrepreneur. And but it makes so much sense, and it's so much better than anything else I've ever heard. So I love.
Oh, I appreciate that. And one thing with gratitude too, when's the last time we were grateful for the little screw that is attached to the stop sign closest to our house? Like there is so many things we can be grateful for. So many things. I've done like I was explaining that grateful three activity of whenever you have that negative thought, say three things you're grateful for. I have done that over and over and over again. And my rule for myself is I can never repeat something I'm grateful for. Of course, I can say what I'm grateful for. I'm always grateful for my wife and kids and the place that we live in. But for it to count for the three, has to be something new. I've done that for about 6 years. I have never ran out of things because there
Wow.
is always something to be grateful for. And if you can't think of it, think of think of the smallest things. Literally, you can like spin in a circle, look in a direction, and find something. Because even if you're looking at the sky, you got clouds, you got moisture, you got air, you got the hemispheres, if you want, you got space and stars and different planets. Like there's so many things you can be grateful for. And having that gratitude in your life doesn't take away what you have to do and responsibilities, doesn't knock things off the to-do list, but it makes it more manageable.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So true. So true. Yeah, yeah. I love that. And so the people that you coach are pretty darn fortunate. Like the people that take the
Appreciate
time
that.
in your life. I mean, they're hearing things a completely different way than they would hear from a whole lot of people. And so I'm sure they adore you and recommend you and whatever as I will. And so I love what you do. I love your attitude toward it. I love the way you glow when you talk about your wife and kids. I love
I'm a
everything
girl
about
dad. I'm a
it.
girl dad. I love being a
Yeah,
girl dad.
yeah, that's awesome. And that phrase, is fairly new, but I love it. A girl dad. I think that's so cool. But yeah, so it's so good. So for people that are going through tough times, because there's no doubt, you go through tough times, you get a horrible diagnosis, you get let go from your job, someone around you passes away, whatever it is. What kind of advice? Gratitude is great, but sometimes you're in such a place of overwhelming grief or such a difficult spot that it's hard to even think that way. So, what kind of advice do you have for people that are really struggling right now?
I love this question because it's bringing up something that I don't actually share too often. For those of you who are on video, and I'll say it on audio too, on my hand, I have a white wristband. I've had this on since December of 2019. This has been on, and this isn't the original. It has broke. I think it was a year and a half ago. It broke. My little kid was playing with it, and so I was like, "Honey, I need to get a new one." So she got me like she got like a dozen new ones. So I'll be good for the rest of my life. But the reason I have this was because at the time I was going through my own addiction, and I wear this because it had a phrase on it, and I still remember it, even though now it's worn off and broken, and wearing another one. But it said, "One day at a time, one day at a time." As amongst the darkness and the pain that we feel, the anxiety and the stress that we're going through, the to-do list and the task and the responsibilities that are put onto us, especially as adults, because now we don't get to run around and do whatever like little kids. We actually got to do stuff as adults called adulting. Amongst all of that and the pain and the suffering, if all we can do is just take it one day at a time, then that is enough. Because for you who is listening, you have survived 100% of the days you have lived so far. That's not good. That's great. 100%. You have 100% success rate. in being here and going through each day. And so in those moments where it just feels like you can't go over the next 24 hours, just take it one day at a time. Don't focus on the week, the month, the year ahead. Don't worry about the in-laws that are coming in 2 weeks for the family reunion or the school's pro PTA program that you signed up because you were nervous and scared that you didn't want to be that parent who wasn't there, or whatever it looks like for you in your life or your business. Take it one day at a time. Just focus on that next 24 hours. What can I do right now? And if all you can do is survive, which is get some water, get some food, make sure that your kids have what you need to. If you need to let your kids watch a tablet because there's so much going on, let it be so and be okay with that. Just focus on that one day at a time. And for me and the people that I've worked with, that has helped where we feel so overburdened and hit this analysis paralysis and everything of overwhelm. It's just like I wear my reminder for the last almost decade, one day at a time, and you can do it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. One day at a time. Yeah. Yeah. There's even the Bible says let tomorrow take care of itself, right? But when you are in that dark place, that makes so much sense, Willie. That's such great advice that get through today. Just get through today. However you need to get through today, one day at a time. That's so good. That's so good. So
Yeah.
thank you for that. Yeah, that is so awesome. Yeah, that's that's really good. Um, Man, that's so good. Everything you're saying is just so good. I so appreciate it. I appreciate you and I appreciate what you're doing, like I said. And so if people want to work with you, or let's back it up a little bit and say if people know people or are themselves dyslexic or neurodivergent in whatever way, and maybe are feeling like they're abnormal because of it, or there's some wrong function in them. What do you say to those people, or what do you say to people who have somebody in their life, like things that they can do or say to people to help?
Yeah. Yeah. What I'd say to them is, yeah, best place for all of it. Go to my website, coachwillieblake.com, and there you'll be able to find links to all of my social medias and especially my YouTube. And I'm building LinkedIn of sharing videos and free content around achieving as a dyslexic and as a neurodivergent. So that'd be a great place to go. It'll also be a place if you're just like, I'd love to chat. I'd love to talk more. And, we don't have to work with each other, but I just want to see if you can actually help me in my life. Well, then that'd be a great place too. There's a place on there to be able to schedule a call with me. And also I have a free ebook that I offer to people who listen to awesome podcasts like this, which there's two of them, but the one specific that comes to mind is my Break Free ebook, which is specifically the 12 limitations or the 12 chains of limitations that shackle us down and how to shatter them. And so all those are found on my website, coachwillieblake.com. And anyone who themselves or people are just like, Willie's kind of cool. I like what he said. I want to hear more of what he said. That'd be the best place to start.
Yeah, yeah. Well, great. I love it that you have a YouTube channel, that you're putting out content, um, specific content for this. I think that that's really great because there's resources, but sometimes resources can be hard to find. And so to have a channel that's dedicated that way, man, that's awesome that people can go to whenever they want to go to it. That's just so cool. It can be difficult, when your brain works one way and you're with somebody whose brain works another way. It can be difficult to know exactly where to go with that, exactly what to do with that, right? Like I've got a son and a grandson who are both autistic, and their brains work differently. And trying to figure out what that means, what it looks like to them. Like I think, man, it would be great to just spend a day in their head, just be them for a day to see how it is that they process things and what they see in the world compared to what I see in the world, I guess, or whatever, what the differences are. And even with you to be able to pick up a book and go, wow, this is what you see and this is where you are. Holy cow, right? So but yeah, the more we can understand, I mean, we kind of started out that way, is the more we can understand and have conversations around things and understand each other, man,
Yeah.
the better we're going to get along, the better life is going to be. So yeah, thanks for that. That's awesome. And we'll make sure, of course, that that's in the show notes too. And so, yeah. So as
Yes.
we're at the end of our time, uh, is there anything that you've not said as you've dropped gold and gold and gold and gold and gold? Is
Appreciate
there
that.
anything that you haven't said that you wish you would have had an opportunity to say?
Two things, and they're short. The first one is something that I call it many different names. Sometimes it's the 2% rule, sometimes it's the pick one theory, sometimes it's doing the 1 minute one thing, which is pick one thing to do for 1 minute to help you, like, because if you want to change your mental state, change your physical state. But all in all, if you're actually wanting to achieve something, don't worry about the big thing that's ahead. If you know the direction you need to go and you have kind of a rough draft of the plan that you laid out to get there, pick one thing you can do each day to go after that goal, because that's going to build up. That's how I've built my life up. My life isn't about a bunch of big moments that happened. It's about the little small ones that I've done in private and in public. It's those small ones that over reps have gotten me to where I want to go. So pick one thing. That's the practical side. The second thing is more on the hope side and more along with light, which is from Ephesians in the Bible. And I believe it's chapter 4 or 5, verse 8. One of those two. It's right before the armor of God, as he talks about. But in that verse 8, it says, "Ye were once darkness, but now ye are light. Walk as children of light." And that is my hopeful message for each of you who are listening, is to, you were once darkness. You didn't have this perspective before you listened to our show, or you had some type of perspective. But as you've been able to listen to this and you've been enlightened with what has been said, and you have these ideas going through your head, and you might feel a little bit of hope and possibility, it is now your turn to do like I did. And it's start walking as a child of light. And that's doesn't mean you're not going to face problems, doesn't mean that you're not going to have darkness and make mistakes. Man, I can't tell you how many mistakes I make each day. But you get to choose where you're walking. And so walk as a child of light.
So good. So good. What a way to end the show. Thank you so much, Willie. Thanks for everything. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being you. I so appreciate it.
And thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you everybody for tuning in. And there's probably somebody that that this would be a great show for them to listen to. This episode would be so great. And somebody that you need to introduce Willie to, or whatever, you need to pass on his website, or you need to go there yourself, whatever it happens to be, pass it on, share, and be generous with your friends and family, and give them this, and so that they can hear the gold that has come out of Willie's mouth today and has been so helpful, and I'm so grateful for. And so thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you for being here. And I just pray that until we're together again, that you keep your heart open and you live your love loud.